So here I am, waking up in a hospital bed with the sterile smell of disinfectant assaulting my nostrils. It feels like someone has been using my head for a drum solo. As my eyes finally decide to cooperate, I see a figure, cloaked in the telltale white of a hospital regalia. Bella? I croak out, my voice as rusty as a forgotten bike in the rain. Yes, Paul, it's me, she says, her voice as soothing as a lullaby. Bella, my high school crush. The girl who used to sit in front of me in algebra, smelling like lavender and summer vacations. What was she doing here? I'm your nurse, she announces with an eerie cheerfulness. The conversation is unsettlingly casual, almost rehearsed, like she's had this talk with me in her head several times. You're a nurse now? I stutter. She laughs. A sound that once used to be my favorite symphony now sounds like the prelude to a horror movie. Yes, Paul. I've been one for quite a while now. I must have hit my head hard, because all I can do is nod, my thoughts ricocheting between Bella's sudden appearance, my throbbing headache, and the fact that I'm stuck in a hospital room with no memory of how I got here. The walls of the room seem to close in, and Bella's face morphs into a Cheshire cat grin as she whispers, Don't worry, Paul. I'll take good care of you. There's something off about Bella, but my head is pounding too much to figure it out. I gulp, offering a small nod as I settle back onto the pillows. If you're seeing this, send help, an Advil, or better yet, a full-scale rescue operation. Until then, it's just me, my high school crush turned creepy nurse, and a ton of unanswered questions. Paul, do you remember how you got here? Bella asks, her eyes a little too intense. No, I admit. Last thing I remember is ordering Chinese takeout and watching The Office reruns. I don't remember signing up for a hospital-themed horror show. Bella laughs, but it's a hollow sound, echoing ominously in the room. You fell, Paul, she explains. Hit your head pretty hard. Fell where? I question. On a pile of confusion and dread? Down your apartment stairs, she clarifies, the ghost of a smile lingering on her lips. I stare at her, my brows knitted together. And you happened to be around. Bella shrugs, a nonchalant gesture that feels like a red flag dipped in danger. I've been watching over you, she says. Do you live near me, Bella? I venture, fearing the answer. She grins, and I'm hit with a wave of unease. Oh, I live very close, Paul. Closer than you can imagine. As Bella hums an off-key tune and busies herself with medical charts, I can't help but feel like I've been thrust into a twisted episode of Grey's Anatomy. Only here, my nurse seems less like a lifesaver and more like a ticking time bomb. Rest up, Paul, she says, her voice chillingly cheerful. We have a lot to catch up on. Great, just what I needed. A trip down memory lane with my creepy high school crush turned nurse. If anyone's out there listening now, it would be a good time to come to my rescue. Seriously, anyone, even Dwight Schrute would do. Bella was around all the time, always with that grin, like she's in on a joke and I'm the punchline. So, Bella, I start one day, trying to keep my voice steady. How'd you end up in nursing? Oh, she says, beaming. I've always wanted to take care of people. I always wanted to take care of you, Paul. I choke on the apple juice she gave me. Me? She nods, not breaking eye contact. Ever since high school, Paul. I didn't even know you noticed me back then, I say, trying to keep the conversation going. Maybe if I could understand her better, this would be less terrifying. Oh, I noticed, Bella replies, her voice a ghostly whisper. I noticed everything. Okay, I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. Every word out of Bella's mouth is like a scene from a horror movie. She leans in closer. Too close. I can smell her sweet, sickly perfume, see the mania in her eyes. I know what you're thinking, Paul, she whispers, her voice terrifyingly soft. And don't worry, you're safe with me. Yeah, and Hannibal Lecter is a great dinner companion. I laugh, but it comes out as more of a strangled gasp. That's comforting, Bella. Am I crazy? Was I paranoid? Was this just a sequence of a head injury and too much TV? Or was I stuck in my own personal horror movie, with no sign of the credits rolling anytime soon? My days took on a new pattern. Bella, with her creepy declarations, was a constant shadow. She would often just stand there, watching me with an intensity that would make Edward Cullen uncomfortable. One afternoon, she brought in my lunch. Made it myself, she said with a proud smile. I took a bite and instantly wish I hadn't. It tasted strange, too sweet, and my head started to spin. Bella? I stammered. What did you put in this? Her response? A wide-eyed stare, and then a giggle that sent chills down my spine. Oh, just a little something to make you feel better, Paul. As my vision blurred, I realized what was happening. I fought against the rising tide of darkness. The room tilted dangerously. Bella! I gasped out. What? Why? She leaned over me, her expression one of twisted concern. Shh, Paul, you're safe with me. Always. The last thing I remember before everything went black was Bella's triumphant smile. As I drifted into unconsciousness, I couldn't help but think that I was in serious trouble. In a battle of wits, I was unarmed, in a hospital, and I was uncared for. Or, I guess, cared for a bit too much. So how do I get out of this? How do I escape Bella and her crazed version of nursing? I can already tell it's not going to be easy. But hey, as they say in The Hunger Games, may the odds ever be in my favor, because right now, they're definitely not. So I'm lying there, while Bella continues her creepy caretaking. Suddenly, it hits me, like a lightsaber moment in Star Wars. The medication. Bella had been in charge of it since day one. She could have easily manipulated it to make me sedated and keep me here. I couldn't believe it. I mean, sure, Bella was crazy, but this was some Gone Girl level of crazy. I had to do something. Fast. Just then, another nurse walked in. Let's call her Susan. Now, Susan seemed like she'd be more at home in a Grey's Anatomy episode rather than this horror show. She was the epitome of a caring nurse, a stark contrast to Bella. Bella, Dr. Stevens wanted to see you in his office, Susan said, giving me a sympathetic smile. Bella hesitated, casting a lingering glance my way before finally leaving. That was my cue. I had to show Susan what Bella was doing. Susan, I whispered, my throat dry. I think Bella is acting weird. She looked at me, taken aback, but there was no disbelief in her eyes, only concern. What makes you say that, Paul? I explained my story, Bella's strange behavior. It felt good to get it out in the open, to share the burden of this twisted mystery. Susan looked thoughtful. All right, Paul, I believe you. Let's get to the bottom of this. And just like that, I had an ally. I wasn't alone anymore in my fight against Bella. It was a small win, but it was a start. Susan and I hatch a plan. You know, just the usual hospital shenanigans. Uncovering a potentially psychotic nurse's dangerous plot. Susan manages to distract Bella, getting her to assist with another patient. I take this as my chance to sneak off to the staff locker room. I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but I had a feeling that Bella's locker could hold the answers. I start rummaging through her locker and find a small notebook, and what's written inside sends chills down my spine. Detailed notes about my daily routine, my medication, my food intake, notes that progressively delve into the realm of obsession and madness. I pocket the notebook and make my way back to my room. As I lay waiting for Bella's return, Susan comes in. She has a determined look on her face. Paul, she says, we have to report this to the hospital administration. We need to stop her. And now, the grand finale, when the villain meets her downfall and the hero, well, doesn't really get the girl, but at least he survives, right? So, this is her journal, the head nurse, Mrs. Morgan, asks as I hand over the tiny notebook. I nod. Susan beside me squeezes my hand assuringly. Yes, I reply. She's been, obsessed with me. Mrs. Morgan and the hospital administrator, Mr. Thompson, exchange a glance. As they read Bella's dark fantasies, their expressions turn from shock to horror. I can tell they're beginning to understand the gravity of what's been going on. I can't believe it, Mr. Thompson mutters, flipping to a particularly disturbing entry. This is grounds for immediate termination, possibly even legal action. Beside me, Susan is a picture of vindication. We've been telling you something was off about her. Mrs. Morgan nods, her usual stern face softened with regret. I just thought that she was dedicated to her job. Dedicated or obsessed? I retort, glancing over at Bella's eerily decorated locker. That's when the hospital staff sprung into action. Bella is promptly fired, the police are notified, and I'm given a new nurse. A kindly, non-creepy old man named Joe. As for Bella, I honestly don't know what became of her. I was just glad to be rid of her. And Susan? She and I become friends. Real friends this time, not the kind born out of mutual terror. And as for my crush on her, it remains just that, a crush. After all, waking up in a hospital to your creepy crush, one lifetime experience is enough. Thank you very much.